Welcome back to video number 3. In the previous video, we talked about brand definition, and in this video, we're going to talk about how brands influence us. So, how does a brand influence us?
Let's look at this image here. You see 3 logos for 3 different coffee companies. Imagine, Joan, you're walking down the street, and these 3 coffee places are right next to each other. They all serve coffee. We both love coffee.
We do.
What's going to influence your decision to go to a certain store?
I think first, previous experience. Have I had their coffee before? Now, I can say 2 of these 3, I've had their coffee before. So, immediately, I'm drawn to 2 out of the 3. The third is questionable because I don't know what their coffee is like. Is it too strong? Is it bitter? Is it, I don't know what they serve, so I'm a little hesitant there.
So which ones have you been to before here?
I have been to the Mermaid, Starbucks,
right,
and the McCafe, McDonald's. And from there, then, I'm going to draw on my previous experiences, and I'm going to Starbucks. I'm not a fan of McDonald's coffee.
And what is it about McDonald's coffee that isn't working for you?
Oh, it doesn't taste good. Sorry, it's just
so it's product.
It is product all the way. So, initially my decision might be based on simple things. The location of the store. Now you've said they're all next door to each other,
yeah.
So that eliminated that. But as I'm commuting to work, right, and I'm jonesing for that cup of coffee, if Starbucks is located on the right-hand side of the street and it's easy to get into and drive through and then get back on the road, then, that may influence me. So ease.
I have a feeling, though, you would drive 5 miles out of your way to go to Starbucks over McDonald's.
Have you been in my car in the morning? Yes, I would. Because taste is probably the most important thing to me. Lots of things would influence where I go for a cup of coffee, but ultimately, the product itself is what's going to bring me back. And I have had very good coffee at Starbucks, and I like Starbucks, so I would go back. I've had very bad coffee at McCafe. But if we eliminated those 2, and we only had the Blue Bottle Coffee Company, I might Google them, see what they have. And particularly price, because of course price is part of our, the brand. But once I've had it, if I particularly like it, then I might go out of my way to go there.
Right.
Okay.
So if you lived in San Francisco, which is where Blue Bottle Coffee is out of, and that's why we haven't had it here in Phoenix, Arizona, you might be a bigger fan. I can tell you It's a local favorite there. And so if you're the type of person who's what they call localvore, only do local and don't do corporate, you might look at those first 2 and go, no way would I do something have a corporate coffee.
Right.
I only do organically free-ranged, grown in the shade by well-compensated worker coffee.
Right. And getting on that point of well-compensated workers, there is an impression, and whether it's fact or not, that people that work at McDonald's are not well paid. But what about the people that work at Starbucks?
Actually, they're some of the happiest employees. They're constantly up on the surveys about employee satisfaction. We do that over and over again. So we know we're getting coffee from a place that takes care of their employees. That's going to affect our decision.
Absolutely. And don't you feel it when you go in? I can't.
So.
I have been to more Starbucks than I care to count, particularly in my wallet. And I have never had bad service.
Wow, that's amazing.
And so I think that's really something that influences me when I go to get coffee. I also happen to know that Starbucks is one of the few companies that provides health insurance for their part-time employees, and I like that.
Yeah, and they also help to provide other benefits I hear, like college tuition, things like that, so that might also drive us towards them.
So that's part of their brand and part of what I know and my experiences with them, and so part of my decision to go to that particular store.
So not only are you getting the coffee you want, you're also making people's lives better.
That's right. That's right.
Even though some people might say it's globalization and commercialization, it's killing good coffee.
I have heard these arguments, and my cup of coffee argues with you. It's still quite delicious.
So it's really funny to think of all of these things are influencing our decision just to have a cup of coffee. You think it would be that simple.
Right.
It's really not. It's much more complicated.
No, that's very true. And a brand has a lot to do with that. A lot to do with how we make our decisions.
Because if you've never been to San Francisco before and you saw these three next to each other,
I would, I think it would. I might take the risk.
Because you're on vacation.
Right, exactly. It also might matter who was with me. If they wanted to take the risk as well, or if they would drink it if I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I could still go to Starbucks.
There's a reason why, Starbucks started local and it became this global hit. There's a reason why.
That's
powerful,
right.
Powerful brand.
That's right. And the brand has a lot to do with that. And so now we have brand recognition. And
do you think maybe with McDonald's, they always had this reputation of being inexpensive dollar menu place to get like a satisfying meal, but cheap?
Mm-hmm.
Do we maybe not like that association with our coffee? Maybe that's why we avoid it?
I think for some people that is the case. I happen to be a little bit cheap, so if they had really good coffee, I would go to McDonald's. For me, it's that the
so
coffee.
You don't drink your Starbucks for a status symbol?
It's not a status symbol for me. It's all about flavor.
For some people, though, that might
that's
influence
true.
them.
That's very true. And it's also the product that's available.
Yeah.
I just drink lattes, so that's not a, but I've definitely been in line behind people that have ordered something that had 15 steps to it. And
they never blink.
They never, I know. They're like, okay. And I think, wow.
Yeah, I always feel very boring. I'll just take the latte.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
That's it. Hot or cold?
Yeah.
Just hot.
Hot latte.
And they throw them real off and just get a drip.
Yeah. Excellent. So I think that it's very important to make these considerations and to really think about how does your purchasing depend on those brands and how are you influenced?
We have a lot of options, and when you go to get interviewed, there's a lot of people going for that job. So that's why it's important to build that kind of brand, because you want to influence the employer.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, on to our next, personal branding.